Hello again, and happy Saturday pre-Father's Day. Today's footage I am going to continue working on the trim. I'm going to finish up as much of the trim and batons as I can on this east wall, and then we'll get the window here in the bump out cut in, and then I'll jump over and start working on the west wall. I gotta tell you, this year the allergies out here are kicking my butt, though. For a little while, I kept wondering why. Like, I get really winded easily and just drained. Emily was actually concerned enough to start asking. She knows if I'm not feeling well, I'll say, hey, I need to go to the doctor or whatnot, but she knows that if I end up taking a nap during the day, that's one of her clues that something is seriously wrong. And the other day I clocked out from work and took a nap, and I was gone. I think I slept for like 3 hours. And working with this hay has definitely made me realize and figure out that this is just, it's allergies, and for some reason they're triggering something in my lungs this year, which is unusual. But working with we've got that the hay shed that I've been building, and we'll get some. I've got some footage of that and collecting the hay, putting it in there, so we could get the hay protected from the rain, which we had to do last week before it was finished. I made sure I worked hard to make sure I had a roof on it, because I knew the rains were coming for a few days. So we heard and got it as far as I could, and then we went and filled it. And sorry. Speaking of, yeah, it's just been this June, this, for whatever reason, and I wonder if it's because it's been wetter than the last couple of years, and so I haven't been able to go out and mow the field as early. In fact, the tractor and my 91 F-150 are both stuck in the field, because I went and tried to get some grass mowed, because I was realizing that the hay is, or the allergies are being such a challenge this year. So yeah, I went out and I got a little bit, and I started to slide a little bit, and I was trying to pay attention to where I was going. And the crazy part is that I had driven through a spot, and I didn't have any problem. I didn't slip. I didn't struggle at all. And then I came back and drove pretty much through the same spot, well, just a couple feet to the side of that, and I just stopped. It is the tractor's basically sitting on the frame. I knew our newer our get around town truck. It's a F2 or a F-150 that has a 4.6 liter engine, but it has street tires, and they're absolutely no good in our field. And this older 91 is kind of my farm truck. It's old and pretty much beat up, and it's a project truck. I keep going from idea to idea of what I want to do with it. It was purchased actually to replace the 08, but with pandemic and fuel costs, and apparently the value of trucks like this one just bottomed out about 4 months after we bought it. So when we bought it, it was valued at 14 grand, which is great because that's what we bought it for. And then just 4 months later, it suddenly was valued at 4 grand. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, we now have a couple of trucks. We actually have a third truck that was also a project truck. That one's an F-250, and I bought that one so that I could haul the tractor around. And I bought it for a super dirt cheap price because it needs some transmission work, and I knew that. So that one's no good trying to get a tractor unstuck right now. When I do get around to getting the transmission fixed up, though, that'll be a good one to pull vehicles out. But it's just a matter of being able to get the mobile vehicle to the stuck vehicle. So for now, our solution, we've actually got a bunch of strips of carpet left over from when our church redid the carpet a couple years ago now. We've been using it for basically weed barrier, weed fabric kind of a thing, and to give us some walking paths so we're not walking in the mud all winter long. But I've got several dozen strips still, and a couple of actual rolls of the new stuff that they ended up they were getting ready to throw out. And so I told him, hey, I'll help you move all that stuff if you'll let me just have it. And he was more than happy to not have to pay the dump to end up throwing it all out. But anyway, so I think we're going to try that. We'll try throwing some carpet strips down there to see if we can get some traction. The problem is the mud on our property. It's not sandy mud, it's clay mud, and it fills the tread of the tires so quick, and then you're just stuck with street slicks. It's crazy. So I now have 2 vehicles at the moment stuck out in our field. If the carpet doesn't work, then with my next paycheck, we're going to go pick up a 12,000 pound winch and a frame to mount it on, and I'll get some recovery gear, a winch block, not a winch block, a snatch block, and a couple of 18,000 pound straps, so I can essentially use the frame and some D-links and the straps to attach the winch to a tree that's nearby, because there's lots of those, and then I can winch the tractor out, and hopefully can use the tractor then to get the truck out. And the truck should be able to drive back. There's a decent path back out, so it is what it is. Anyway, this project is coming along quite well. Right now I'm just working on basically sizing all of these pieces of pieces of lumber to be the battens. And because I am using stuff that so I end up with leftover pieces kind of when I'm milling, and I turn those into stickers and battens, or what will become stickers and battens. And I've got a bunch of it, so I had a bunch of the little 2-inch battens, and I was using all of those. And I'm glad I started on the other side, because that's essentially a side that more people will see on a regular side. I don't know that many people other than Emily or myself are going to be over here. And so I ran out of the 2-inch pieces, and so I'm putting up some 3-inch pieces, which does the same job. Um, I do have to be careful because this plant right here is a salmonberry. Um, it's a native raspberry variant, native to this area, and when it's fully ripe, it tastes like a cross between an apricot and a raspberry, kind of. Like it's like an apricot that has the raspberry tartness, but not very strong. Um, it's a really unique berry, and we were really excited to try a couple of them last year, and there's enough berry clusters on it this year that we should probably get like a quarter cup, maybe even a half cup of berries off of it. And there's a couple of new shoots, so it's super happy in this spot. My only fear is that by building the trailer here, it won't like this spot. Um, Although that trailer's been here all year, and it's doing super well. As you can see, it's got really dark, rich leaves, lots of big new growth leaves. Um, and so I have to be really careful. There's actually two different plants, but one of them is really small. Um, and we're actually hoping that this whole area will basically become a big salmonberry patch uh, eventually. So that's one of the goals. Um, but yeah, it's really kind of straightforward. I'm trying to start with the hard stuff over here. So like taking the notch out for the rafter on this one, um, getting the corners in, getting the trim across the underneath the roof there on the top of the bump outside, stuff like that. And then that way when I get done with all of that, I've got the remainder of these 2-inch batten boards that I'll hurry and just throw them up. And like the siding itself, the battens actually go pretty quick. The trim tends to take a little while because you've got a lot more angles and cuts to figure out as you work your way around stuff. But the battens are pretty much just cut it to length, cut the angle across the bottom, the bevel across the bottom, and then you're good to go. And so that's all I'm doing right here is just marking them and cutting them. And there was one of them. We'll get to that in a minute. The camera died right as I was trying to straighten it, but there's one of them that ended up having a pretty noticeable warp to it. And since they're thin boards, you can do a pretty decent job of figuring out how to get them bent. But I did have to use a ratchet strap to pull the bottom of it. But like I said, you can see once they're all, it's just a cut on each end of the board and you're off running. And my hope was by alternating them like this, that it won't really be that noticeable. I mean, now that you know what you're looking for, you can definitely tell. But I don't know that anybody else would. If you just are looking at it and just thinking, oh hey, look, But it definitely makes a different feel inside the trailer because before the battens, there was a lot of light coming through. There was a lot of breeze coming through. With the battens, it starts to really feel like a room, and it actually gets quite dark. So I'm glad I started cutting these windows out. I still need to cut the on the screen. It'll be the left window, but I finished off this day cutting the window out of the bump out over here, and it's really nice inside there. And in fact, it actually leaves things a little bit chilly in there, which for me most of the time is super awesome. Emily does get a little bit cold. Like today, she's out there working on her laptop on some stuff, and she had a t-shirt and a sweatshirt and a sweater because it's a chilly day today. It's fairly rainy, and so here's where I was talking about. I'm going to use a ratchet strap to bend this board in, but that's where the camera dies, right here. So thank you as always for watching, and God bless you and yours. Stay safe and healthy out there.